Katanas. They come in all shapes and sizes. But what if you want a one-of-a-kind blade, but aren't willing to pay an arm and a leg for it? Well, today we're going to take a look at a custom katana that I personally designed and see if it makes the cut. Today we're taking a look at a custom katana made by Swords of Northshire. I got a ton of comments from you guys asking me to review their swords, so I reached out and they offered to make me my very own custom katana free of charge. And after several months of waiting, this is the end result. I call it the Crimson Tide because of the wave motif that runs throughout, as well as its sick-ass blood red color scheme. This bad boy's got a folded, clay-tempered, differentially hardened 1095 high carbon steel blade with multiple custom fullers. I even had them cut the top half of the blade into a diamond shape to help reduce weight and drag while cutting, which is something I've never seen on a katana before. The folded steel creates an attractive looking grain pattern on the blade, but I will say I do wish the grain pattern was a little tighter and a little less spaced out, which just has to do with how many times the blade was folded. The planes of the blade are nice and flat, which is good, and I don't really see any tool marks. And the polish and sharpening is also well done. You can tell that they really took their time with this blade. Whew. That shit is so sharp, Jesus. All said and done, this configuration would cost you $580 US, including shipping, which puts it right in between low to mid-tier reproduction katanas. But don't worry, they also have cheaper blade options in case you already blew your allowance on titty figures at your local anime convention. I was actually really impressed by the amount of options they give you when customizing your blade. I figured they let you choose your fittings and your steel type, but they do everything from custom blade lengths, geometry, fullers. They even do custom engravings, which means my next katana is definitely gonna have 420 Blaze It engraved on the side. The whole process is pretty simple. You go through each part of the sword and pick whichever option speaks to you. It's like the Subway of swords. The blade is the meat, the scabbard is the bread, and if you want it toasted, your sword will come out differentially hardened. All right, now let's take a closer look at these fittings. The Sageo is of decent quality and thickness. I'm just glad it's not a shoestring. And the handle wrapping is decently tight, and the diamond patterns are actually surprisingly clean. I also really like the Tsuba I picked out. The design's really cool and it's nice and lightweight. Keep in mind your mileage may vary depending on what you choose because let's be honest, there's a lot of options. Also, I love this scabbard. I saw it in the catalog and instantly knew I had to build my sword around it. It's super unique and I've never seen a saya like this before. It also holds the blade in really securely. Like almost too securely. But I would rather have it too tight than loose, if you know what I'm saying. Wow! But there are some downsides. For instance, the race skin is fake, and they don't have any options to pay for the real stuff. It's also paneled instead of fully wrapped around the handle, which is kind of disappointing. I really wish they had an option for real race skin or higher quality handle wrap, but I assume they think most people just won't even notice. I also totally regret getting this silver habaki. It was cool in theory, but in person, it just looks all scratched up and cheap and plasticky. Now I will say, the customer service for Swords of Northshire is excellent. Upon completion of my sword, they sent me photos and informed me that the original handle wrapping I chose looked a little bit off, and they offered to rewrap it with a darker red color that fit the aesthetic of the blade better, which I thought was really nice. Unfortunately, when they sent me the photos, I didn't notice the manuki were actually put on the wrong sides of the handle. I'm sure if I would have caught it in time, they would have been happy to fix it, but it's still kind of a bummer they got that wrong. Either way, getting a preview of your sword before it's shipped is a really nice touch and ensures you know what to expect. So yeah, this sword looks pretty rad, but the real question is how well does this cut? Well, we're about to find out. All right, so today we're gonna test out my Crimson Tide Katana. This is my first custom katana, and I like it a lot. I think it's a really cool sword. It's super lightweight, especially because of the fullers that they put into it, and there's a lot of metal cut out of the back of the blade. Overall, nicely forged blade. It is extremely sharp. This is so sharp. Oof. So this sword is razor sharp right now. Let's see if the blade will be able to retain the edge after cutting through a couple of mats. If the edge is still holding after about 3 mats, then I'm gonna say it's pretty good. Should be in pretty good shape. Ooh, well, I like the way it feels though. It's so light. You could use this one-handed if you wanted to. You guys know I like my light swords, but this should be able to laser straight through the target. All right, I'm excited. Let's do this. Yeah, it's like a laser beam. First cut through like it was nothing. I barely felt any resistance when I went through this. Whew. Whew. Oh, there's no resistance when I cut through this target. That's amazing. That's really cool. Whoa. Oh, this blade is insane. That cut through that like it was nothing. Wow. This thing's a monster. Holy hell. The fact that there's a bunch of metal taken out of the back of the blade to create more of a diamond shape on the top half, which is like, this is where you're gonna be doing your cutting right here. It works. I barely feel any resistance. This thing just flies through the target. It's so nicely balanced because of how light it is. It feels really good in my hands. Really nice. That is so sharp. Whew. Oof. No problem, no problem. Okay. All right. That's nuts. Oof. It is still so sharp. That is so much fun to cut with. Holy shit. Is it dulled at all? It's maybe dulled a tiny bit since I started, but like a razor blade, the very tip is the weakest part. And when that gets kind of ground away, the underneath it is still very sharp, and that's what's happening up here. Like, this is still very sharp. It would be a while before I have to sharpen this again. But holy hell, this cuts nicely. It's because it is so light, I can swing it super fast and also keep my edge alignment straight. With a heavier sword, the faster you swing, kind of the less accurate you become. But because the blade is really manageable in weight, it allows you to cut super accurately at really high speeds. So this thing just flies through the target. There's very little resistance. The fact that there's space taken out of the back of the blade, I was just like, you know, I think that'll make cutting easier. but it really makes a huge difference. I will say the Kashira right here is starting to get a little loose. I've seen other katana reviews where after a decent amount of cutting, this thing pops off, which will cause the entire handle to unravel, which would really suck. So I hope that doesn't happen. Kind of something to look out for. Also, just the fact that the manuki are on the wrong side, I feel it digging into my palm right here. The whole purpose of the manuki are so that when you grip the katana, you'll feel them with your fingertips. So the fact that they're on backwards means this is a sword for a left-handed person, so that their fingertips would touch these. It's kind of uncomfortable, kind of sucks. Besides that, I have very little complaints about the sword. For the price and for what you get and the customization options, pretty damn good deal based off my favorite movie. No, it's not my favorite movie. You've never seen Crimson Tide? I've never seen Crimson Tide. So, turns out this thing cuts like a beast. It's honestly some of the most fun I've ever had cutting with a sword. But the fact that the Kashira came loose after just one session shows me that these swords really are not meant for cutting. The blade's got what it takes, but the fittings just can't keep up. Keep in mind, almost every custom shop out there gets their fittings wholesale from China, which is why they generally all have the same selection of parts. So while there are a lot of options to choose from, just know that almost all of them are going to be mass produced and fairly low quality. You're not going to find museum quality fittings here, even if you got the money to pay for them. So with that said, I'm going to give the Crimson Tide Katana 3 anime body pillows out of 5. It loses points for the fake ray skin and wobbly Kashira, but gains points for its super sick custom blade, and the fact that there are no other swords out there like it gives it a special place in my collection. So if you're in the market for a custom katana, I think Swords of Northshire are a pretty solid option. These would make a great gift for that special weeb in your life. And let's be honest, they're not going to be using these for cutting anything other than water bottles, so you could totally pick a cheaper, less high-grade steel they wouldn't even notice. Big thanks to Swords of Northshire for making me my first custom sword. I'll have a link to their website in the description below in case you want to pick one up for yourself or a loved one. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.